Hi guys, welcome to Beauty Within. It's your host,
Felicia, aka Felili.
and Rowena, aka Rowewe. Today, Felicia and I wanted to share 10 of our skin goals for 2021.
Because at this time of the year, it's good to reflect and, in order to move forward, whether it's personally, as a society, whatever it is, you need to kind of look over and read back over the journals of how we got here, right? And it's funny because even in the beauty and skincare industry, so many surveys have been done, like 2019, what's the trend and all this stuff. This year and last year, people are looking more and more into what glowing really means. And then now you associate glowing skin and clear skin with holistic wellness. Being beauty within, that is something that we've always focused on. So it's exciting to finally see, kind of like everyone kind of coming on board with it, because it wasn't always the case.
Yeah.
So without further ado, we're going to share our 10 skincare commandments.
10 skincare goals.
Yes, skincare goals. We're not that huge.
Grab your teas, grab your coffees, grab your anything.
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking the Blue Lotus from the Chi. What are you drinking?
Our favorite type of tea, green tea, but it's mint, because I thought, like mint, cinnamon, anything like
Yes.
warming is that
Mint
type.
mocha.
Yes. So clink, clink.
Just left you hanging there.
Yes. Sip for mankind. So the first one is know what to invest in. And this is very personal for everyone.
Yeah. So I think naturally as humans, we gravitate towards certain things, certain people, certain objects, certain ingredients, certain products, certain brands.
Yes.
And it's normal and it's totally fine for us to gravitate towards things that we're genuinely passionate and curious about. But I think that process of curiosity, discovery, learning, asking yourselves, do I really need this or do I want this? It's a must-have or is it nice to have?
Yeah.
All of these are important before we actually buy something.
So let's just take skincare as an example, right? There's really expensive products that we talk about, really affordable products that we talk about, and everything in between. So I think this year, personally for me, is within the skincare routine, which step do I enjoy most? And then which leads to which one do I find more interest in, which I will want to spend more in. So some people really enjoy serums, and serums I think by nature are just more expensive anyway because of the active ingredients they need to put in and, formulation.
So within your current routine, where would you splurge on in 2021? And what areas would you?
I really love the facial cleansing
Tools.
device. Yes, the tools, because they give an additional layer of just comfort, cleanliness, feeling to the cleansing step that I don't think I can get with my fingers.
Yeah, they go where your fingers can't go.
Correct. Yes. In no way will our little fingers be able to do that. And then you learn about the device, and it's non-microbial. It's antibacterial, and it's just really easy to use. And so that ticks all my boxes. So I'm I would invest in that, and I really love it. So I even gifted it to my
Aw.
parents and
Yeah.
friends and stuff. And then maybe treatments for acne. I would buy the 9% BHA, even though a little tub is $40-something. Because I need it and I know I need it, then I'll invest in that rather than just a more inexpensive calamine drying potion or whatever they call it. Oh, and a mask, a chemical exfoliating mask.
Ooh.
Yeah. Okay, the fresh black tea, that's not chemical exfoliating, but it's got the probiotics. And then also the peach and lily reboot resurfacing. Yeah. So that's kind of for me, knowing where you stand, knowing what you want to spend and what you need, and then really honing in on that. What about you?
I think this year I just refound my love for very basic but friendly moisturizers.
Yes.
And then when you realize that if you have a really good and solid moisturizer, that is what is most essential. So a good cleanser, a good moisturizer, and a good SPF. Having rekindled my appreciation for moisturizers made me realize that within all the other steps, the toning, the serums, they're all nice to haves. And I think for some people, it's a lot more important. But relearning the benefits of moisturizer and the power of moisturizers made me realize that I don't need to spend too much money on anything in my skincare routine,
Yes.
so long as the moisturizer is solid. And there's so many solid moisturizers that are affordable. And then there are just 2 products that I would splurge on that you guys already know already.
Yeah, so remind us.
Repeat after me. The Ven Vitamin B All-in-One Concentrate, Amora Pacific's Vintage Essence.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, even though it's $186 for that one or something like that. If you cut every other product out apart from your cleanser, it would kind of amount to that.
Yeah.
Like serums can be like $50, right? So if your toner, serum, moisturizer, all of that in one, it's probably still like punching a little bit above, but you could justify it like that, yeah.
Following knowing what to invest in, the next thing is use what you have before you buy more.
So this is especially applicable to, I guess for us, it's because we're always sent more things, right? And for me, I have this almost, even before the channel, whatever, almost hoarder tendency. Like I love keepsakes. Like I'll keep a ribbon of a box and I'll keep the box, you know?
Truth.
Yeah, and just store it away for like, who even knows? An apocalypse.
In which case, because one day I will need the box and one day I'll need the ribbon.
Yeah, to crawl inside and wrap myself up. Even as like our generation, I feel like we're exposed to so much. We can have everything in an instant. You know, Amazon comes next day, whatever shipping it is. We want it now. And that just makes it so much more easier to compile.
Yeah.
And then it gives you this almost falsehood of reality of what you actually need.
Yeah, and then there's trends. We hop onto trends as quickly as we hop off of them.
Yeah.
And there's always new trends, so we're constantly, you know, doing this dance,
Yeah.
getting things that we don't need,
Yeah.
and then regretting getting it, and this like this downward dark spiral.
Yes. So for me, I'm like, I'm already kind of like, she knows this, I'm quite messy. Like, you know, my desk is ridden with stuff and it makes me feel comfortable.
No, but it's, what is that word? It's very comforting. It's
For the life of me, I can't keep it clean. Like the
artful clutter. That's what I was going for.
Oh.
Artful clutter.
Let's call it that. My mother will be proud that there's a term coined for it.
clutter.
So something that we've learned not only in terms of streamlining the routine, but in terms of streamlining our lives and our habits is minimalism.
I like essentialism.
Yeah.
It's okay to have things, but just keep things that are essential too. And
Yeah.
it's different for every person. And I think it's for skincare, it's actually not a bad idea to keep an inventory, either a digital or a written inventory of all the products that you have. So you know exactly what you need, what you're using, if you like it or not, so that you can refer back to it when you need to get more things. And another little tip that I may start using is using a Sharpie to write the day I open a product. Because there is a expiration date on all products. It's very easy to see. There'll be like a little cosmetic, you know, either a little cylinder thing that has like 12 or 6 on there. So 6 is 6 months, 12 is a year.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point because you have to then question if you're going to spend a lot on
Yeah.
something, you better use it. And I think for me, sometimes this like frugal part of me is like, oh, I spent so much on it, I don't want to use it every day.
It's so nice, it's gonna be a treat.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a treat that just goes down the...
It becomes an expired
Yeah.
treat. Yeah.
And one more thing is giving away skincare. Yeah. Everyone can benefit from skincare. Guys, girls, dads, mums.
So speaking of giveaway, we are going to do a giveaway for you guys at the end of this video. For 5 of you special people, I mean, you're all special, but that's, you know, keeping it low key.
Alright, let's do that one more time. How cold sweat.
We'll leave all the details in the description.
Having this year been as crazy as it's been, crazy is an understatement. This one is to take the good and the bad as lessons learned. As humans, we tend to focus on the bad. I think it's just easier, right? Like for example, comments on YouTube. If there's 100 good comments, you're like, great.
Yeah.
If there's one negative comment, you fixate on that and it's as if the 100 good comments just don't exist.
Yeah.
And I think this applies to everything else in our lives too. Everyone around you can be saying great things and the one person says something negative and you're like,
And your whole castle crumbles.
yes.
Because I think the brain just, like, it highlights
It fixates
the bad.
on the bad.
Yeah.
It fixates on the negative, and it's so easy for that to fester.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what you put your mind to, you will not like manifest it, but you'll feel more of it, obviously, right? The more you think about something, the more you'll feel it.
Yeah.
So the more you fixate on the negative, the more negative things you'll see around you. The more you fixate on the positive and think about the positive, then that's what you'll see around you as well.
Yeah. Would you say you're a more glass half full or half empty?
Half full.
Were you always?
I think so.
But same, you know, like in any given situation, I'm like, it'll be fine.
Everything
For the
will be
most part, you know. And even if it's not fine, you'll move on. Tomorrow's
But
another
the
day.
great thing about this is no matter if you see the glass half full or half empty, you can shift that perspective.
Yes.
It's like if you did something in the past that you weren't proud of or something happened that you don't like and you're like, I made a mistake. Instead of fixating on what didn't go well, if you're able to extract a lesson learned from it, that it's no longer something that's negative because you learned something from it and it becomes a positive thing.
Yes.
So it's all reframing mindsets, perspectives.
And then I think if we all have a clear goal or like a destination that we not like clear on, but it's the journey towards, like for the channel, for example, we can look and fixate on views or like comments or, you know, comparing it to other channels and get totally derailed by very easily.
Demotivated.
Yeah, or like just what's happening in the industry, whatever it is, right? But for us, like we have a clear goal and it's to bring everyone together. It's to like help everyone learn. And so the little pebbles along the way in the steps, even though it might not seem as a good thing, we actually take it as a good thing.
Yeah.
So it's reframing the bad and the good to be kind of like neutral in a way. So that's one that we both will always continue to, it's like a muscle, work that muscle.
Yeah, but I think this is one of those muscles that if you kind of strengthen it, it just becomes a part of you.
Yeah.
You naturally will feel more resilient and not be faced with as many negative thoughts.
Yeah. Moving on to our next point, which is one of my faves, all about, yes, health. Health of our gut, our skin, our mind, our body.
Just being a little ASMR.
Yes, because in short, inflammation of the gut is inflammation of the skin. And inflammation of the skin is the woes of our life, whether that's psoriasis, eczema, acne, rash, redness, whatever it is, flaking, drying skin. It is like food truly is medicine.
And at the same time, it's also balanced, right? Just like if you only ate green vegetables for the rest of your life and nothing else, it'll probably do more harm than good. But overall, a balanced diet is key to everything.
And you know what's interesting? Chinese traditional medicine is all about balance. It's about, you know, understanding what we're given at birth, like hers is heat, right?
Yes.
And so she needs to like cool it off with fruits and vegetables and all of this, like cooling natured foods.
And then it's also damp heat, so it needs to be warm, cool foods, not cold foods. Like if I drank juices now or smoothies now during the winter, I will actually break out more.
Yeah.
Because the damp heat gets trapped in my body, which comes out as eczema or rashes on my body.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It really is, because nothing is by coincidence, my friends. Like if I eat too many mangoes in the summer, I will get a nosebleed. And it's because mango is a heated fruit. So even though this whole concept might seem a little bit like, I don't know, far
Hocus
out.
pocus?
Yeah, there is a lot to it, and it's because it is so intricate that it might be a little hard to understand. But stripping it back, just knowing what works for you through trial and error, reading your body as a big walking sign.
Yeah, it is.
It's like in the mirror, help me.
So taking it back to inflammation, as Fel mentioned earlier, it's great to eat foods that are high in antioxidants, including probiotics, including healthy fats, including leafy greens. Leafy greens are naturally high in vitamin A, C, and folate, which is a nutrient that helps with DNA repair.
Yeah. Talk about
Wild.
skin repair, right?
Wild.
And UV damage. What's gonna help it? Leafy greens, amongst many other things.
Yes.
But I think on top of that, like all of this can sound quite, it's like, I'm told to eat this, and it sounds very like, almost like a chore, but it's kind of finding the curiosity to experiment, like adding berries as alternatives or, you know, finding a new dish to try. It's so much fun.
And if you don't like leafy greens, there are ways to hide it in foods. Like
Yeah.
zucchini and spinach are both very neutral veggies that you can easily hide in smoothies or even muffins.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is why for the upcoming year and forever and beyond, we're going to keep learning more about like different ways to incorporate things, learning about the nutritional value, what it actually does to the body. So it really is all back to educating ourselves.
Yes, which brings us to the next point of learning how to learn.
That is very interesting, especially in the times that we're in now. It's like learning what is objective information versus consuming something that sounds like objective information but is opinions.
Yeah, so we can talk about this from the skincare industry. What is clean? What is truly clean? What is natural? Is it good? Sustainability? What's the right way? And then of course you can go beyond the skincare industry to every other vertical in our lives.
Yes. You know, everyone has a bias. We come out of the womb and we have a bias, right? Our mothers have a bias. You're the most beautiful, like, girl or boy I've ever seen. Bias.
You're gonna be a great mother.
No, I'll be like, you're no, I'm just kidding. So we all have bias, and I feel like now because we also have so many platforms to share our thoughts that it can very easily be written in a way that seems like black and white. And then other people on the other side, you consume it and you read it, and if you don't know any better, you'll take it as Bible. And I think like being in the skincare industry, we see this firsthand. As Ro was saying, like clean, we found out that really serves no, it really doesn't say much, let's just say that. But if that is something that you look for, then like look more into it, right? Look at the studies, but also know that the studies also present biases.
So this is not to discredit anything about science or like scientific data. It's more so how we make sense of that information. And that aside, when we do read something that may be like a huge question mark, not to be too moved right away. For example, Purito.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most obvious and apparent example right now, right?
So when the studies came out for Purito, it's easy to read that and just assume everything is wrong with Purito and that they did it on purpose and that every single product within the K-beauty industry therefore is not accurate, or like the sunscreens, the K-beauty sunscreens are all bad and you should throw away all of your products. So I think we see that logic, right? But at the same time, seeing the other side and having worked with brands and knowing their values and knowing the things that they care about, giving them the benefit of the doubt. It's like, okay, let's wait for them to come out with their statements, see what they have to say, and then we will decide accordingly. Which is why when a lot of these things come up within the industry, we don't really talk about it because we feel like at the end of the day, you know, everyone is entitled to their own opinions.
Yeah.
And fundamentally, what's most important is just to hear people out.
Because it's almost like trusting the process. You know, if something is inherently bad, we believe that it'll come to the surface. If it's good, it will work itself out. Like, how many times have we gone through, like, man, the skincare industry has had its drama this year, hasn't it? But like, we choose not to feed into it because we know that like whatever happens will almost happen.
So when something happens, when something pops up, when you start doubting people, brands, anything yourself, just remember to take a step back and breathe before jumping to any conclusions or doing anything rash that could potentially harm other people or yourself. So that's what we're gonna keep doing.
Forever our work in process. Progress?
Process. Both.
Okay.
Both work. Work in progress, work in process. Which is a great segue into our next point of practicing unconditional acceptance. As it pertains to our skin, accepting ourselves not only when our skin's glowing and happy and healthy, but also when it's the complete opposite of that.
Yeah, completely like that, right? Like we think that we're our best selves maybe only when we're ravishing and glowing, but no, like how would we be able to learn if we weren't coupled with the not so great, like the pimples, the breakouts? That is actually the journey that we must all go on, and it's all good.
That's the beauty of life. I think if things are always good or always bad, then we wouldn't be able to appreciate things when they're good if they're always good. You need to know darkness to be able to see the light.
Yes.
And if we want to take it a step beyond skincare, it's how we go about our day-to-day lives, unconditional acceptance, which also reminds me of kindness, empathy, compassion. I think these days, all of these words are buzzwords and everyone wants to do all of these things, right? But I think there's a very big difference between conditional kindness versus unconditional kindness, right? And I think learning to accept people, even if their views differ from yours.
It's actually very easy words to blurt out, but very hard to practice. Like honestly, this year has been pretty hard. Like it's taken a lot of time to reflect because of situations like that where like maybe you're wrongfully accused, maybe people are gonna misunderstand you, and that's really hard. Like I think for me, being misunderstood is something that I really like growing up had trouble with. And then coupled with the fact that you don't want to explain yourself because like, you know, you might feel that you're entitled to this, but then it still doesn't stop the fact that it hurts, you know? So like that takes a lot of time and a lot of kind of like repeated experience for you to build an identity that's also not jaded. Because you don't want to come out of it really spiteful either.
And I think same thing with me. This year has really taught me that I think we've always known that you can't please everyone. But I think as people pleasers, and especially if you're not the most sure of yourself, you tend to seek external validation, which then means you care very, very, very deeply of how others view you. And it just pains you so much when people disapprove of you or when they're like, I'm disappointed that da-da-da-da-da. I think like this year was just very tough in that aspect. But through it all, I think we've both learned together and in our own ways that, you know, so long as you're true to who you are, you're doing what you know you need to do, it's impossible to explain yourself to people in a way that you understand yourself. And I think at the same time, it goes back to taking a step back and having compassion, understanding for them, and that, okay, it's probably not coming from the best place, but at the same time, I'm also accepting of the fact that, you know, they might be going through hard times or they might be going through something themselves and that it's okay.
And we always talk about this in the context of skincare, you know, like we're born with a skin type, right? But it's not going to be the same skin type for your entire life because you're going to go through like school and then you'll be working and you'll have different stress points and then you'll have hormones and then that all fluctuates like every kind of year or so. So just keeping in mind that where you are now is not where you're going to be in maybe a month or two or a year and a decade, and understanding that that's also simultaneously happening with everyone around you. Otherwise we'd be robots who had a creation date, an expiry date, and a mechanical like way. Yes, which we are not. We are complex human beings. Anyhows, moving on to the next one, which is find your rhythm. And this one is really important, especially not just in skincare, but in life itself, because, you know, based on our previous points, we are all on our unique individual journey. Just like our skin is unique and individual and personal to us. And the relationships we have with our products, with brands, with estheticians, with friends, with family is all very unique. So I think, you know, anything that is too cookie cutter is wrong, which is why traditional Chinese medicine is all about balance and it's all differently prescribed. You know how they like concoct different things? There'll be different measurements for every single person who enters the apothecary.
Dance to the beat of your own music, as my mother would tell me all the time.
The Congo.
Don't dance to the beat of other people.
Yeah.
Dance to your own music. I think that's so beautiful. Yeah. And I think if we want to unpack it even more, it's like, okay, what's your current routine like? What is your diet like? How much time do you spend on social media? What time do you go to bed? Are you happy with that? If you're happy with that, great. You found your rhythm, you're in flow, and then you're living your life, you're being your best self. But if you look at your rhythm and you're like, man, I think these areas could use a bit of work. So for example, for me, I could sleep earlier so that I can wake up earlier. That is something that I can implement and try to work on.
It's kind of like, you know, if you're like drawing a picture, you have a pencil and you have an eraser. Whatever you don't like, you just kind of erase away and you make it better. You like clean it up, right? It's kind of like that. So for me, I think it's actually relationships. Yes, this balance, finding the balance, once again, balance of the me time and people time, especially in COVID. Like that is so weird.
Yeah.
What once was me time has just become all the time if you're at home. So it's like, okay, then how do I rebalance that by reaching out?
Moving on is to manage your energy and time better. I think once you find your rhythm, once you find the one like sliver of your life you want to work on, you can build your day around that. And this year, I really learned the value of energy management, knowing when your energies dip. Maybe it's after lunch, after you have a meal. Instead of scrolling on your phone endlessly for an hour and losing yourself, you can opt to go for a walk or to just do some sort of light exercise to keep your energy level up. So energy, in this sense, it's more of your mental energy. So knowing when your mental energy spikes, it's usually because you do some form of self-care, exercise, going out for a walk, getting fresh air, drinking tea, slowing down, spending time in nature. It will be different things for different people. And before, I thought you need to do many, many, many things throughout the day. Like every single day, I need to journal, I need to meditate, I need to da-da-da-da-da-da-da, I need to do every single thing. But now I learned that as long as you do 2 things every single day that makes you feel grounded and centered, be it meditating or journaling or anything else, that's all that really matters, especially when your energy is dipping.
Because as you were saying that, I was like, quantity stresses me out. Like checklists stress me out. But for other people, checklists keep them sane.
I love checklists.
Yes. So like, all of us are so different, and it's very important to realize that. I remember the Bujo, like journaling. I love drawing and like doing all this stuff, right?
But she's stuck on February 2019. She drew some very pretty lanterns for Chinese New Year, and then that's it.
Yeah, because the stress of feeling like I need to keep updating it, or like, you know, whatever you're mentally you foresee it as, it's crippling almost, and then it kind of goes backwards. So it's like, why do you even have a journal in the first place if you're not going to use it, right? And now I just use this like $3 one from Muji, which is keeping my life in check because there's no guidelines.
Yeah.
And I function well off like knowing the general direction, but not like has to be done like this, but some people need that. So knowing yourself, I think that is self-discovery, knowing what makes you inspired, knowing what keeps you motivated, like all of these are really important. And then you kind of go into your chest of drawers and see what you need every day.
This point is about strengthening relationships. I think this year, as Fel mentioned briefly already, it's just a very, very interesting year of relationships or lack thereof.
Yeah.
And I think we've both learned a lot about ourselves, learned about the importance of relationships.
So this year compared to like every other year, I think social anxiety is something that we all probably have to some degree, because not many of us can say that we're like completely comfortable meeting new people and being put into a completely foreign situation, right? For me, I would just think 50 steps ahead of like where I actually am, like, oh, I need to be here. There will be a bunch of these people and I'm gonna have to say this, and blah, 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 and I'm like, I don't want to go anymore.
And then she doesn't go.
Yeah, I don't go. So like that was maybe like 2019 when we could still go out, right? And then this year presented this almost new situation where it was like, introverts are thriving. Like I can stay at home forever, and you're shielded and protected in the problems that used to plague you. But then what I realized was, because of that comfort, it seems like to the people around you who you used to converse with and have strong relationships with, it was like, oh, you don't care about me anymore. You don't even like reach out to me anymore. And then personality-wise, I think the friends that I have around, you will always be close to me. Like whether I talk 50 times a day to you or 0 times a day for like a month, right? And I have friends in Australia who I haven't talked to for like 6 years, like 6 months to a year, maybe some even 6 years. Damn. It's like, hate to have you as a friend. No, but seriously, because then other people, you know, it's kind of like the love language.
Yeah.
How I show appreciation and love and like closeness in relationship is not speaking all the time or touching all the time or being around all the time.
How do you show love then?
Just in my mind, I'm like, we're close. Like I love you. Like you're my closest friend.
This is the 6th love language. The language in my mind that you should know and telepathically understand.
Yeah. Like once in a while, I'll pop out and be like, oh,
ding, ding, ding,
yes.
ding, ding.
And it's just normal. Yeah. You know, it's like, it's always been that way. You've never changed in my mind. And that's like, to me, a real relationship, you know? I think I learned the hard way that happened. Like I wasn't aware that some people need kind of that it's not reassurance in a bad way, but just reminder that you're still on their mind.
Yeah. just human connection at the end of the day, and learning the hard way, same with you, that like, you know, there's a natural, there's
Push
just,
and pull.
yeah.
The ebb and flow.
Yeah.
The moon and the water. Like it's forever like this.
Which brings it to communication. I think like if you are good enough friends with someone, you won't be afraid to voice your inner thoughts of like, hey, I needed you a little more this year, or it would be nice if you could check in on me a little more. In a way where you don't expect them to do one thing or another by telling them. You're just like, I just need you to know this is how I feel.
Oh, this is how I am.
Yeah, and then just however they respond, they will respond. I think a lot of times where miscommunication comes from is, I'm gonna tell you how I feel, and then I expect you to change.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I feel like I haven't been loved. Can you spend more time with me? And then if you don't, then it's like, oh my God, I opened up myself to her, and then she hurt me. She heard me, but then she chose not to listen to me. But I think we're so much more nuanced than that as humans. And I think it's just the expectation part, right?
Yeah. Which then leads us on to our last and final point, which is find what makes you content. So because this is also very subjective, what makes us content, what makes us happy, what makes us fulfilled, what gives you all of that right now? Or even next year?
I think one aspect is continue doing the work that I'm doing, but at the same time, spend more time out of work, spend more time in nature, spend more time with people, spend more time with myself. I think a lot of times it's easy to go home and then you lose yourself on social media, and then you are like, oh my God, I don't have time to read. And then you realize, okay, the 2 hours you spent scrolling on your phone could have been for reading. So just really prioritizing things that I want to do and doing them and making time for them, carving out time to do those things.
So like the little steps, achieving the little steps.
Yeah, because this year I really learned that small incremental wins and small incremental improvements really do lead to like big changes and big results over time. It's like the daily repetitive things that you may not think too much of. Those are the things that will compound over time to really help change your life. Yeah, and the better you get at the day-to-day things, the calmer you are, the more grounded you are, the more centered you are, the less stressed you are, the more beautiful your face will be.
Seriously, the beauty from within
Yeah.
is no false statement.
Yeah. What about you?
Oh man. I feel like for the most part, I'm content with everything that I have. It's taken a lot to get here with like, you know, we're never gonna have everything. We're not gonna be perfect as we talked about, but I think also in the same vein of fine tuning, it's like knowing where I don't do well in, which is probably communicating really my thoughts, my inner thoughts, the vulnerability that I was talking about like earlier this year, and communicating that vulnerability and being comfortable with it. And then on top of that is just learning how to improve, I guess, what I'm doing now, you know, because that kind of gives me a lot of excitement and joy. If there's barriers around me, I almost want to find ways to just like smash them down. Like, I'm not gonna like, you know, the exploration of it all. That actually gives me so much excitement. Yes, it's like science. We've explored this much, but there's like so much more out there. And knowing that and allowing yourself to freely think about and test different things, kind of like in the way that a little child goes out into the world, and finding excitement through exploration and applying that to the next year with everything that we're trying to do now, that gives me complete joy.
Nice.
Yes. Even though it might be really torturous. Let's be real. So guys, it went a little abstract, but we've just talked a lot about skincare over the entire year. I think it's really important to be able to put skincare into its position within the bigger kind of like perspective of things.
Because skincare is really only one aspect, and it's one manifestation of our inner state. It's a very clear manifestation of how we're doing inside. And it's the whole balancing the outer and the inner world when it comes to like our mental state, and then how we think and how we're feeling will manifest outside, and also who we are as a friend to ourselves will also manifest as who we are to people in our lives. So just this inner outer dance, it's so beautiful. And the more that you learn, the more you're just like, it's all connected.
And we're all very, very intuitive. We're all very smart. we can all probably benefit from trusting ourselves a little more. And yeah, I hope you guys are all well, you're happy, you're safe, because it's coming to, that time of the year. So don't ever lose your light, and just know that we're all on this journey together to find our beauty within. And if you have any comments, questions, anything of the sort, check the description below for all the details for the giveaway as well.
Yes!
And we'll see you very soon in the next episode.